Uncanny Valley, Chapter 5, The Library. The attic was silent, thick with the dust of forgotten things. Orson had not planned to come up here, not today, not ever if he was being honest. But the cat had other ideas. It had appeared late that morning, a sleek black shadow slipping soundlessly through the house. It did not meow, it did not beg, it did not so much as acknowledge him beyond the slow, deliberate flick of its tail as it padded toward the staircase, upward. He had followed. Now, standing amidst the relics of the past, he wondered if that had been a mistake. The attic stretched wide and low, its slanted ceiling pressing down like the inside of a coffin. Stacks of boxes, yellowed trunks, and furniture swathed in moth-eaten sheets loomed in the dim light. The only window was a narrow thing, its panes clouded with grime. The air was thick, stale, like a place where breath did not belong. The cat sat near the far wall, its golden eyes gleaming. It waited. Orson sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "All right, what is it?" The cat did not answer, only flicked its tail towards a large, battered trunk pushed against the wall. It was an old thing, its leather straps cracked, its brass hinges dull with age. A peculiar chill curled from it, though the attic was stifling. Orson hesitated. Then, crouching, he unlatched the rusted clasps and lifted the lid. Inside, papers, books, faded letters tied in neat bundles with twine. The scent of aged parchment curled upward, laced with something else, something sweet. Orson rifled through the contents, fingers brushing brittle pages, old photographs, childhood relics long abandoned. A photo. He pulled it free, angling it toward the weak light. A group of children stood before a house, his house. The Queen Anne silhouette loomed in the background, its windows dark, waiting. The children were dressed in old-fashioned clothes, their faces grinning, youthful, and in the center, beaming with the confidence of a boy who had never known fear, his uncle. Orson's breath caught. The resemblance was uncanny, too uncanny. The boy could have been him. Same sharp jawline, same deep-set eyes. But it wasn't him. It couldn't be. He turned the photo over. A single line was scrawled on the back over and over, the ink jagged, frenzied. They were never children. Orson frowned, his pulse ticking faster. What the hell did that mean? He turned the photo back. The air in the attic changed. The children were different. Their faces were still smiling, still frozen in time, but their eyes were wrong. Vacant, hollow. Their mouths stretched too wide, the teeth too uniform, too white. And at the base of their skulls, a fleshy cord. It extended from the back of their necks, thick and pulsing, disappearing off the edges of the photograph as if tethered to something unseen. The longer he stared, the more the cord seemed to move. Orson's hands shook. The photo was warm now, almost breathing. The cat meowed softly. Orson dropped the picture. The attic sighed, a long, breathy exhale. Orson scrambled back, his breath ragged. He grabbed at the trunk's lid and slammed it shut. Silence. He turned to the cat. It stared at him, unblinking. Its tail flicked once, and then, without a sound, it slipped through the attic door and disappeared down the stairs. Orson exhaled shakily. He did not follow right away. The trunk sat before him, motionless. The photo lay where he had dropped it, face down. He did not turn it over again. He did not want to see what it had become. The Uncanny Valley Public Library was a monolithic thing. Its stone facade cracked with age, its windows thick with dust, allowing only a sickly light to seep through. Orson hesitated at the entrance, fingers tightening around the old photo in his coat pocket. The memory of the fleshy cords writhing in the picture still clung to the edges of his thoughts, refusing to dissolve. The library doors groaned as he stepped inside. The air was heavy with the scent of old paper and something else, something damp, earthy, like rotting wood. The floorboards creaked beneath his weight, the sound swallowed too quickly by the stillness of the place. The librarian was already watching him. She stood behind the circulation desk, hands folded, an unreadable smile stretched across her lips. Her eyes, too dark, too motionless, fixed on him with the same polite, unsettling patience he had come to expect from the townsfolk. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice measured. "How can I help you today, Mr. Glass?" Orson stiffened. He hadn't introduced himself. "Just looking for some local history," he said carefully. The librarian's smile remained unchanged. "Of course, the microfilm archives are in the basement. You'll find everything you need there." She didn't ask what he was looking for, didn't hesitate. It was as if she already knew. Orson nodded stiffly, muttered his thanks, and made his way toward the stairwell at the far end of the room. He could feel her gaze lingering as he descended into the dark. The basement was colder than it should have been. The air was thick, still, the kind of silence that settled in places long forgotten. Rows of metal shelves stretched into the dimness, filled with old books, brittle pages, and yellowed newspapers locked away in film reels. Orson moved to the nearest microfilm reader and began sifting through the past. The early newspapers were what he expected, mundane records of small-town history. Mayor announces plans for a new rail line. Local farm sees record harvest. But the further he progressed, the more things began to feel wrong. By the 1920s, the articles grew disjointed. News of missing persons, 4 disappearances in 2 months, no suspects found. Tucked between mundane announcements about town fairs and school dances. By the 1940s, there was barely any news at all. Then, 1953, the microfilm flickered. The newspaper's layout was the same, the font was the same, but the headlines, "Everything is fine in Uncanny Valley." Orson frowned. He flipped to the next day. "Everything is fine in Uncanny Valley." The next, "Everything is fine in Uncanny Valley." Pages and pages of the same headline, day after day. His pulse quickened. Who was printing this? What happened in 1953? He flipped faster, hands trembling. The words remained unchanged, stretching for years. No stories, no details, just the same phrase repeated endlessly. The air in the basement thickened. A whisper of movement behind him. "Find what you're looking for?" Orson barely stopped himself from jolting. The librarian stood a few feet away, her hands still folded, her head tilted just slightly. Her expression was the same, pleasant and unreadable, but her presence felt wrong. He forced himself to breathe evenly, to school his features. "No," he lied. "I was just about to leave." She didn't respond right away, just stared. Then, from the corner of his eye, he spotted it. A hole, small, ragged, gaping in the stone wall behind the bookshelves, just like the one in his attic, just like the one in the hardware store. Orson's breath caught, and then, just for a moment, a fleshy cord extended from the hole, winding up and disappearing beneath the librarian's collar. It pulsed. Orson's stomach lurched, but he didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't let his eyes linger too long. He forced a tight-lipped smile. "Thanks for helping, I should be going." The librarian's smile did not falter. "Of course," she said. She stepped aside. Orson turned and walked, keeping his pace even. His pulse pounded in his ears. The exit was just ahead, just a few more steps. A sharp rustling above. He started, his gaze snapping toward the bookshelf beside him. The cat, perched on a high shelf, staring down at him with its golden eyes. Orson exhaled shakily. Jesus. Then he saw it. Beneath the cat's paws, tucked into the dust, a book. Old, worn leather, its spine cracked with age. The cat lifted its paw. A gift? Orson hesitated. With slow, careful movements, he reached up, took the book, and slipped it into his coat. The cat flicked its tail. Orson turned back toward the exit, stepping quickly into the light of the main hall. He did not look back. He did not check to see if the librarian was still standing there. He did not look at the hole. Not yet. The cold air hit him as he stepped outside, and the library doors groaned shut behind him. The book in his pocket felt warm. Orson sat on the library steps, the old journal heavy in his hands. The book was leather-bound, its edges frayed, its cover cracked like parched earth. It smelled of damp paper and time, of ink that had seeped too deeply into the brittle pages. He exhaled, rolling his shoulders, willing himself to ignore the chill crawling up his spine. The town pressed around him in its eerie stillness. No one passed by. No voices carried on the wind. It was as if the streets themselves held their breath, waiting. With the final glance toward the library doors, making sure the librarian was nowhere in sight, he flipped the book open. The first few entries were innocent enough, a child's handwriting, clumsy and uneven, stretching across the yellowed pages. June 4th, 1923. Me and the boys went down by the old mine today. We weren't supposed to, but what's the fun in doing what you're told? The boards weren't too hard to pull loose, just rotten wood mostly. Ain't been nobody down there for years, not since the cave-in. Tommy dared me to go first. It smelled funny down there, like wet stone and something else, something real old. We didn't go in far, just peeked around a bit. Ain't nothing but rocks and dust, far as I can tell. Tommy said he saw something moving in the dark. Said it had eyes, said it was watching us. I think he was just trying to scare us. June 6th, 1923. Tommy's gone. His mama said he didn't come home last night. The sheriff's been asking questions, but I ain't told him nothing. We went back to the mine today, me, Joey, Eddie, and Sam. Tommy had to be hiding somewhere, had to be a joke, a trick, something. But he wasn't there. We found his shoe, just sitting there, right where we'd been standing. But that ain't the worst part. There were footprints leading away. Tommy's and something else, big ones. June 16th, 1923. Eddie's gone now too. Sheriff came round again. My folks are worried. They say I look sick, that I ain't been sleeping right. I can't tell them. They wouldn't believe me. We went back again, me, Joey, and Sam, just the three of us now. The mine ain't empty. I suppose it never was. Something's down there, something old. I don't like it, and it don't like us. July 7th, 1923. Joey's gone. He was standing right next to me, right there. Then he wasn't. There was a noise, a deep thumping sound. Sam ran. I ran too. I keep seeing shadows in my room at night. I ain't sleeping much. Every time I close my eyes, I feel it closer. July 14th, 1923. Sam's gone. It's just me now. I can feel it watching. I think it's always been here, and I think it's waiting. July 23rd, 1923. They're building a church over the mine. Yeah, like that will stop it. The last few pages were scrawled in frantic, uneven handwriting, the ink smudged as if written by shaking hands. Don't sleep, it's in the walls, it's in the floor, it's in me. The final entry was barely legible, the words scratched so deeply into the paper that they had torn through the pages beneath. They never were children. Orson's hands trembled as he closed the book. His breath came in short, uneven bursts. The church, the mine, the bell. He had to leave. Now. Orson didn't go home, didn't pack, didn't think, he just drove. The town blurred past, its streets stretching long and empty in the dying light. The trees pressed inward as he sped down the road, their skeletal limbs reaching like fingers as if trying to claw him back. His heart pounded. His knuckles were white on the wheel. He had escaped. The motel was a flickering neon scar against the empty stretch of highway, the Hilltop Motor Lodge. It was the kind of place that had seen better days, its sign missing letters, its parking lot cracked and littered with weeds. But it didn't matter. Orson stumbled into the office, paid in cash, and took the key without meeting the clerk's gaze. Room 6. The bed was stiff. The air smelled of mildew, but it was safe. Orson exhaled. He was out. Out of the house. Out of that town. His body felt like lead as he collapsed onto the mattress, exhaustion pulling him under like a riptide. Safe. He was safe. Orson's eyes fluttered closed as sleep took him. Tick. Orson's eyes shot open. The motel room was gone. The stiff mattress beneath him had shifted, softer, heavier, familiar in a way that made his stomach turn. The air was thick, wrong. His breath hitched. His eyes moved, slowly, cautiously toward the corner of the room. But grandfather clock stood there, waiting. The minute hand had moved. 11:56. Orson's chest tightened. His fingers dug into the blanket. His blanket. His bed. His room. He was home. He hadn't left. He had never left. The house had been waiting, and now it had him.